Hello. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's Saturday already. You know, it's always like, I don't know if you've seen the clips yet from the LinkedIn live session I did with Leanne and Abby, but you know when you're always so hyped, and then when I get to Saturday, I'm like, you know, I'm just like, come on, Shereen, wake up, get with the program. So, what you do if you feel like after all this time your company is still not taking this very seriously, so they're not committing to anything, you can't get any answers, you've tried going to HR, they're still fobbing you off, and actually this is like causing you a next level of anxiety because now you're thinking to yourself, the business that I thought I was part of, or the organisation I thought I was part of, and their inability to address this, to talk to us about this, to do anything meaningful in this space, is making you reconsider, reconsider your options. This is purely just my like worldly advice. Like I'm always reluctant to give people like specific, you must, because the context of what goes on in businesses, I do not know, and organisations, I don't know. I'm not privy to. Like, I know roughly what gets said behind closed doors, but I don't know the specifics of anybody's particular organisation. The other bit is, this is so personal, you know, and I've said this before, it's really personal in terms of how you feel about the organisation that you're working for, or the team, or your boss, and their response or their lack of response, and how that's making you feel. So what you decide to do is only up to you and should only be up to you. Recognising that as much as I would love to sit here, like I wish I could, in all honesty, and like look everybody bare in the whites of their eyes and say, do I universally think that leaders and organisations are doing something in this area because, you know, they go to bed at night really worried about, you know, the state of the world, and no, I don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wish I could sit here and say, like, do you know what I mean, that they care as much as like I do, or as much as a whole lot of other people do. And, you know, to some extent, how do I feel about that? Like, I wish that wasn't the case, but listen, I've been in the business world for way too long. I'm too cynical. Do you know what I mean? I'm too, like, what's the phrase? Like, long in the tooth? Like, I've been around for too long. I know exactly how these things happen. And my thing is, to some extent, irrespective of whether somebody genuinely cares or not, or whether a CEO genuinely cares or not, like, it's very difficult to read what's in people's heart. It doesn't matter what they say. You know, it's very difficult. But what I say is, if they are, for whatever reason, if they've decided to do something because they're feeling pressure, because they don't want to look rubbish in front of their peers and contemporaries, because they've got pressure from the shareholders, because the customers are now going, what's going on? Because their clients, and this is happening, because their clients are now saying, before we carry on doing any business with you, please can you let us know what you're doing in this area? What is your, you know, if it must be, diversity and inclusion report? What's your action plan on the back of Black Lives Matter? What's your action plan around all the other issues and barriers that you're tackling within your business that will stop people from progressing, and what are you doing, right? All of those things means that's pressure, and I will accept that pressure if it means that companies do something. And I think to some extent, like, we have to be more realistic and recognise that not every CEO, not every leadership team is going to want to be committed to this. Like, if I told you about some of the conversations I have with people who were like super keen, that was like 6 weeks ago, never heard jack from them, because I think they're thinking, oh my God, the ship has sailed. Like, you know, the people that swear blind, that like they've really taken time to absorb, and they're now thinking about how they're treating people. And even me as an example, they have failed to practice what they preach. So, but that doesn't stop me from thinking to myself, well, as long as they do something, do you know what I mean, for the betterment of their black colleagues within the business, the something is better than nothing, even though like their reasons for doing it in the first place are questionable. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you're in a space where your business or your organisation isn't doing anything, because, you know, like I promise you, there are still businesses that ain't doing jack. If they're not doing anything, you can only go by how you feel, knowing that all of this is like out there and it's open and they're still doing nothing. You've got to ask yourself whether that's a business that you want to be part of. And you know what? It's not easy, because we are living in coronavirus times. We are seeing every single day businesses who have not been able to survive the virus. So they are shedding people left, right, and centre. And there will be high unemployment. There has been high unemployment. It will only probably get worse before it gets better. And therefore, dare I say, companies are in a situation where supply outstrips demand, which means, in theory, they cannot do anything about this and know that they will still have people applying to their businesses. Now, who applies to their business is questionable. And, you know, that's why it goes back to, it depends on your personal situation and. But I am not unaware, and I guess that's the second part almost. It's like the coronavirus impact, right? It's the fact that we're not in a space of where like people can just leave one business and just walk into another one. But it would be remiss of me if I didn't say one thing that the lockdown has taught all of us. We have to get off the treadmill of life, meaning it's about time that we went back to making conscious decisions about how we want to live and how we don't want to live. You know, my friend Anna and I, Anna, who's up in the northeast, hi Anna, we've been talking about this for years. And, you know, so many people get caught up in the run of the mill, day to day. You know, we wake up, we have breakfast, we go to work. We're not feeling particularly fulfilled at work. We don't feel like we're making an impact. We don't feel like we're seen, we're heard, we're recognised. We come home and we do this cycle all over again, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And we live for the moments that we can have 1 or 2 holidays to escape from the monotony of, you know, the lives that we're living. And I don't mean to paint that in a really like depressing, it is quite depressing, isn't it? But you know what I mean. There are lots and lots of people, because I've been there thinking to myself, why am I even why am I doing this? And that was part and parcel of me having my second child and not going back to my, you know, my other job, even though it was secure, even though it paid really well, even though, you know, at the time the brand meant something, you know, all of that stuff that we get trapped into. And, you know, it is tough whether you decide to go it alone, whether you decide to go and do something completely different. But what I always say, is it any worse than how you feel right now? Do you know what I mean? So you potentially will, if you decide that, you know what, this organisation is not for you and you want to go and try something else, or you want to set up your own thing, you know, it is difficult, but it's a different type of difficult. And also for some people like me, I need autonomy. I need to be like the captain of my own ship. I can't be having anybody else driving the ship. No. I've got to be the one that says what it looks like, how it's put together, which more it's getting on, you know, how it's going out to sea, which, like, that's me. That is me. So that's why I will never do very well going back into an organisation. It doesn't matter how much they paid me, because I like that freedom. But with that freedom comes other things that I don't have in comparison to my peers who are, you know, earning stupid money and got great big titles and sitting on boards, and life is different. They've got prettier versions than what I have. But it's about what's important to me. And therefore, it's about what's important to you. So I know that doesn't answer the question in like a really neat, bundled way. But I have lots and lots of people messaging me and sending me voice notes, because people know I like to LinkedIn voice note, and just saying, look, like, Shereen, what would you advise? And, you know, it's not even me being facetious by saying, I can't tell you what to do. I can only give you some context. And I think just, you know, help particularly Black people right now. You know, not everybody is going to get the memo. And even the ones that are pretending to get the memo haven't really got the memo. But to some extent, that doesn't stop businesses from putting in place things to go and make a difference and make it better. I think we would be naive to think that it always comes from a genuine altruistic place, because just business just does not work like that. Do you know what I mean? And it's, dare I say, like most businesses and organisations to a point, it's a transaction. You know, this is no different. You know, there are plenty of people, plenty of CEOs, plenty of managing directors who were sitting on their golf course, because you know you can do that social distancing, and couldn't give a flying about this thing, but they are doing stuff because they know they have to. Do you know what I mean? And I think if you're in your business and they're not doing anything, or in an organisation where they're not doing anything, and you know you've tried HR, you've tried your line manager, you've tried your line manager's line manager, you've even gone to the CEO, and they're still fobbing you off, like, I've got to say, like, is your salary still worth it? Notwithstanding the current environment, you know what I mean? But it's just something to think about. And I think if you're realising that this is not the place for you, well, do you know what? While you're earning a salary, work on your plan B. Do you know what I mean? Because not everybody has to be reckless like I am. I'm like, oh, see you later. But, you know, work on your plan B. Be smart. Be really thoughtful and deliberate, you know, intentional about what it is that you want to do next. Because if you're going to leave this to go into something else, make sure you're not doing it from a place of escaping. Do you know what I mean? Because the decisions that you make when you're trying to jump out of the frying pan, invariably you end up in the fire. You know, I had a lot of time, like maternity leave and recovering from various operations, you know, to think about what it is. And to be honest, I still didn't have an answer, but I knew it wasn't that. Do you know what I mean? And I was quite happy and very fortunate to be able to have the time to kind of think about what I wanted to do next. So it just meant whatever it is that I decided to do, and I had coaching. Like, people don't believe, like, listen, if you're in a position to pay for some help to help you through this, do it. You know, I had a coach, Tanya, is amazing. And you know, she was instrumental in making me realise that I would never be happy back in the corporate world, and I was almost kidding myself, because security, safety, all of that stuff. Then the other lens of being black and thinking about opportunity and lack of opportunity, I almost ended up going back into a world that I desperately wanted to leave behind. Do you know what I mean? So, but sometimes you need somebody else to help you think through that. So I have people that I use, I have mentors, I have, you know, I pay people to help me. I've got no shame, you know, I don't expect anyone to support me for free or anything like that. I will go and pay for somebody, because the hardest thing that you've got to get right is up here. And it just means that you can make, as I said, conscious, deliberate, intentional decisions about what you want to do next. And it doesn't matter if you don't know, as long as you've got an idea of what it needs to look and feel like. And then for some people, they're quite happy to just go and explore. And if you're in that position where you can do that, you know, go and do that, you know. And because the reality is, for some people, unfortunately, we might find in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months that their role is not around anymore. Like, you won't get any notice. You know, so now's the time to just be thinking about, what is it that you want to do? Where do you want to work? What's important for the culture? You know, what questions can you start to be thinking? If you're going to go and apply for another job, like, what do you want to know from the person who's going to be your boss? What do you want to know about what they're doing in this space? Because, you know, they can pay you all the money and give you a nice title, but if they ain't doing anything, then how is that different from where you're leaving? Do you know what I mean? So, a very long explanation, but I hope that just gives, you know, just like my view of the world. There's all sorts in there, but in some way, shape or form, I hope it's helpful. So I'll see you tomorrow.